All right. Good afternoon, everybody, on this snowy Sunday afternoon. At least where we're coming from, it's snowing for me. So,
Yeah.
welcome to our live show. This is the Heels of Time. I am Theo with my co-host Derek. How you doing, everybody? Hope you're doing well. So today we have the last episode before, and it's not the last episode ever, but it's the last episode before the Wheel of Time TV series comes out on Friday.
Oh, that's right.
So we have a special episode for you today.
Mm-hmm.
People may, if you're fans of the show slash books, you probably know about Matt. Matt physically kind of looks like this particular person. That's not a coincidence. So today we're going to look at Matt and Odin. So this one's not an extrapolation. This isn't one of the Derek and Theo conspiracy theories and trying to piece things together with some evidence and some research. This was straight out of Robert Jordan's mouth. He legitimately said, "Hey, Matt, some of Matt's characteristics definitely came from Odin. That was intentional. So we're not gonna totally reinvent the wheel here, but we're gonna hopefully lay down some knowledge on you and show some correlations and you may or not know about. So
And
hopefully
at,
that sounds good for you guys.
yeah,
Derek,
and at any rate, yeah, I was just gonna say real quick, at any rate, this will be like a nice little exposition where you can use this as a nice reference if you can't quite remember all the little ways that Robert Jordan made our favorite little gambler similar to one of the big Norse gods.
so who is Odin? That's actually a fascinating question because
For sure.
as with a lot of Norse mythology, it's not well preserved. It's like there, and then it's gone for a long time, and then it's like kind of rewritten. So
Right.
Odin, how modern twist on it, kind of like the MCU version. Legitimately, it's like this fatherly guy, all reverend-esque and really nice and a jovial type individual. Cool. I got a theory on that one. I'll lay it down later in the show. But
Word.
probably not like that. If folks watched, if we're gonna compare like modern takes on him, he was probably more like the Odin that Hela depicted in Ragnarok, like in the MCU. Kind of this ravaging dude that could murder at a glimpse. And I did that as a
Mm.
pun because he's got one eye. So he was wise, 100%. Did he have one eye? Eventually, yes. He did have
Hmm.
two at one point in his early life. He is almost always depicted as an elderly gentleman,
Hmm.
usually with a
Hmm.
beard. That's
Right.
that's pretty standard. His characteristics are not standard. They're kind of all over the place. He's kind of dichotomous in some fashion. Like I said, he's not really fatherly, but he's a father. He's not really like loving, but he's super wise, but doesn't want really people to die either. It's kind of interesting about him. So he was one of the gods that if you really wanted to go to war with someone, you prayed to him.
Mm.
But you could say, but wait, Theo, wasn't like Thor kind of the god of war? Yep.
Hmm.
Wasn't Tyr the god of war? Yes.
Hmm.
Were Norse like mega war people? Maybe. So Derek brought up
Well,
a great point that
oh, go for it.
if you think about it, and is totally true. Think of Odin as like the general, right? He would send his troops to battle, right?
Mm.
He's the upper echelon. He be the commander in chief. He's not the war. He's the god of war because he's like president of the war.
Okay,
But he's
I
not the
see what you
one.
mean.
he could whoop that ass, really.
Right.
If he really wanted to lay it down, he could and did. But did he really? Usually not. He would order the other folks to go. He'd say, yeah. Give my blessing. You're good. Go for it. So then who would we send out? Thor. Thor is like the infantry. Crazy powerful.
I see what you're saying.
Has a whole bunch of weapons. He's the common folk. He's like the common man, warrior type. Would he beat your ass? Hell yes, he would. So that'd be the difference. So he is the god of war, but he's not the warrior. You would go to him for like advice, strategy, and worrying gifts. Oh, I need a missile. Here's a missile. Cool. That's kind of what I mean by the god of war. Ironic, he was also the god of poetry.
Wow, that's quite a jump.
Yeah, that's what I said. He's very dichotomous. Kind of the god of the dead. That one's an interesting one. God of runes, but not originally. And of magic. Like overall magic. So almost always, like I said, one-eyed, old, beard. Hat, cloak, spear. He's kind of Gandalf-ish.
Yeah,
if
for sure.
If Gandalf had one eye, or if Odin had two, would kind of look like a wizard.
We'll time out right here.
Yeah, go for it.
Why don't you remind our audience what planet do they pray to when they're praying to Odin, these Norse people?
You mean the Aesir?
I mean, like, what planet represents Odin? Or what day of the week?
Oh, Wednesday.
He's Wednesday. So Wednesday represents the planet Mercury. So.
Oh, all right, I got you.
Right.
You
okay.
took me off guard on that one, man.
Yeah, I know I did. I should have set that up in advance.
I was like, what?
You handled it okay, though.
All right,
Don't worry about it. So, with that in mind, Matt then in some way must represent Mercury. And Matt's character is kind of all over the place. He's constantly on the move. Kind of like a Mercury kind of situation, being the fastest planet, so to speak. He also, we'll get probably back to this, but he also is somewhat of a battle commander. But he is reprehensible. He does not like fighting. He just always gets into fights. And people follow him for this reason, because the saying is, against all odds, the band of the hand always wins. So I just want to remind our audience, and I might come back to this future point. So we're talking about associations with not only Odin then, but also the planet Mercury. So back to you.
Yeah, no worries. Which also brings up a good point that I'll bring up later on for you as well.
Perfect.
So along with that, he's got some creature folk that he's usually depicted with. One is a horse. I'm gonna mispronounce the name. Sleipnir. I will say yeah, sure. Crazy thing about him, he's a crazy 8-legged horse. Interesting. He's got 2 ravens.
So that's a perfect time for me to interject. You want to throw out their names real quick?
Yeah, I was gonna. Yep. Sorry, dudes. Hurgan and Murgan. Yeah, it means thought and wisdom.
Okay, perfect. So this is where Jordan kind of winked and laughed and giggled and wrote it right out for us. Okay. So he just said that the ravens that Matt has would mean pretty much in English thought and memory. Well, our friend Matt Cauthon, he receives a spear from these foxy folk. On the spear, it is engraved, "Thus is our treaty written, thus is our agreement made. Thought is the arrow of time, memory never fades. What was asked is given, the price is paid." So a few things here. We think of Odin and we think of contracts, like between 2 parties, not like with Tyr, where it's like a contract of war, but more like the gentleman's contract. So that's interesting. But to the point, and before I throw it back to you, thought, that's Hugin. Memory never fades. That's Mugen. So yeah, we have exactly a reference to Hugin and Mugen in Wheel of Time. And what's more interesting is right on this staff, this spear staff, there's a blade at the end, like a sword, which makes it unique and interesting. And that is inscribed with two ravens of all things. So
Bingo.
we have found, exactly, we have found Odin's two ravens for sure. So I'm gonna throw it back to you.
And then other times, if he's like kind of sitting and around, he's got usually like two wolves that would sit with him. So that would be how he physically looks.
Well, I gotta stop you again then.
Yeah, go. I knew you were going to. I was gonna try to get in, but go.
So even though Matrim Cauthon does not have two wolves, he has two foxes, and one of his foxes is this silver medallion that he wears around his neck, and that protects him from being channeled against by men or women. We don't know until I think book 6 or 7 that it protects him from men channeling also, but it directly protects him. You could still like throw a boot at him and it would hit him. It's not like the boot would bounce off, but you can't like directly use the one power on him to like levitate him or something like that. So that's fox number 1, standing in for a wolf. Number 2 is Matt gets a signet ring, and he stumbles across this ring in happenstance, and it's a ring. And on the ring is if you press the ring down, it's meant to be kind of to seal like a personal letter so that someone knows it's from you, right?
Signet ring.
Right, exactly. So when you press it in the wax, the hot wax, and you pull it out, the wax dries, you see an image of a fox chasing up 2 birds. Now we don't know that they're ravens.
They're ravens.
They're most likely ravens, I would guess. And it's a fox. So you have Matt's 2 foxes and a special ring. What do you think about a special ring, Theo?
See, I was trying to get that in before Derek took it, and he knew, and that little snicker nose that I was gonna about to drop. So it's interesting. Odin's got this crazy ring. So what does wax do when you melt it and you kind of like tip that candle? What does it do?
Well, it'll re-solidify.
Yeah. You took my thunder, so I was gonna get you back. It drips. No. It drips off the candle, right?
Oh, sure. I missed that part.
I'm gonna mispronounce it, but I know the translation is Dropnir, which also means the dripper.
Oh.
So this is Odin's ring now. There's Odin's ring, the dripper. It's a golden ring. Cool. It was actually forged by some dwarven characters, some old guy, who also created Mjolnir and Gillenburst. That's the boar. Mjolnir is Thor's hammer.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
these 3 guys, it's a bet with Loki, whatever. It doesn't matter right now, irrelevant. But they're like set of 3 gifts. Mjolnir was actually the winning gift, but that doesn't matter because the drippers just doesn't really do much except it reproduces itself every 9th day. It creates 8 new rings, all identical in size and weight, but that's all they do. So I mean, I don't know what is so awesome about that.
Well, so think about this. So we talk about syncretism all the time.
I'll rephrase. In terms of mythology, I don't know what Odin would want with a ring that reproduces 8 times. To me, that's whatever. But in Matt's case, there is a significance to that.
Well, Theo, what I was getting at is maybe this was Robert Jordan's guess on what the poetry was referring to. Because, so I'm going to remind everybody. So I know a little bit about Norse mythology. I'm not an expert. And Theo here, he's an expert in mythology, so the classics. So between the 2 of us, we're able to get a little bit done, right?
A little bit.
So,
but neither of us are really drop the mic with North stuff. So if people do Norse
one thing I do know
but you
is
do. Okay, go.
one thing I do know is when they wrote their mythology, it was meant to have double meanings, like all
Yes.
over the place. And they'd write things in code, and they'd constantly refer to Odin by other names in these weird kind of ways.
Right.
So Robert Jordan might be, I'm not speaking for him, I'm just saying maybe one of the things he could have done is looked at this and said, well, this is definitely poetry. You can't literally have a ring do this. So Matrim Cauthon, his character, always has a hidden purse of gold that he doesn't let anybody else even know exists. And he calls this his seed. Okay.
Seed money.
So with his seed, he's able to gamble and produce as much money as he pleases, because Matrim Cauthon is a gambler and he's always very lucky. And because of that, he's able to multiply this money by as many magnitudes as he wants. And what's interesting is the seed literary in the literature is mentioned within the same chapter as the ring is mentioned where he first receives it. So maybe, who knows, but maybe when the original poetry was written, the Norse people could have been talking about making deals and using your ring to seal the deal. And when the deal matures in the time period, then you increase your money that many times. Who knows? But Robert Jordan seems to be hinting at an idea that, oh, well, he can always gamble to get more money. And he uses the ring, really doesn't have anything to do with it. But as mythology is made, someone might venture a guess, oh, he's lucky because that ring is what makes him so rich. So we gotta say that just to remind everybody that this is a very much a mind kind of like what if scenario where we're talking about all of our mythology that we have is, what if it was based off of something that actually literally happened, but not in the way that it's written? And then at the same time, what if this stuff happened in the future that we live in currently? So it loops back together. So the point of that is like we're trying to say everything is this big game of telephone where any actual event that happened got a little bit fudged and messed up along the way. So with that, I'll throw it back to you, Theo.
That's a good point. That's a good one. I liked how you extrapolated that, Derek.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So one of Odin's thing was he wanted knowledge. That was if you would want to say that it was almost his downfall or his if that's
hubris.
Hubris. If a god could be hubris of himself, he would do anything and everything to get more knowledge, to get the knowledge of the cosmos, to get the knowledge of magic, runes, all the stuff, everything. So if you remember, I said it right at the beginning, Odin is always depicted with having one eye. However,
Right.
he didn't always have just one eye. He had two. So he had to make a deal. You could drink from this well to gain knowledge, but you have to make a sacrifice. Odin's like, all right, dude, I want the knowledge, man. This is the knowledge that I need. You have to give an eye. Now, mind you, he's like the all-seer, right? He's like the guy that's the guy. He's like the head of the pantheon, head of the household. And if you look at most gods, were never really depicted as any type of handicap
Okay.
that I can remember. So what does he do? Bam, just plucks it, gives it, drinks it. So it's Mimir's well of Erd, and he drinks and gains his knowledge set. He also makes two deals. Two of them to get his knowledge. But that's his first one.
Okay.
So Derek, do you want to go into one of Matt's deals?
Thank you. Nice setup. So there are a few ways to go about this. because Matt gets knowledge through the snaky folk. And through the snaky folk, he doesn't understand that they're getting his experiences for these answers that he gets. So I'm going to leave that one for saying that parallels another scenario. And instead, I'm going to go for the closer parallel. In Wheel of Time, in the last book, or the second to last book, so this is a huge spoiler, Matt Cauthon trades his eyeball to the Foxy folk to get Maureen back. That's right, she's not dead. So, but who does Maureen represent? Well, in our analysis, part of Maureen's character is to represent the fates, the Morai. As a matter of fact, her name is spelled in the same way. It starts off Morai, and then it ends in the Ain. So, in a way, that's knowledge, I would say. So he's getting knowledge, Maureen, in exchange for his eye. The prophecy in the text that you will recall as you're reading this book is that, and I'm paraphrasing, but he gives up half the light of the world to save the world. So in this way, they're kind of teasing that, okay, well, Matt is kind of like a savior god in a kind of way, I would say. So that I think I can leave it there. Yeah. So that's where his eye goes. His eyeball goes bye-bye, and he gets the wisdom of Maureen.
And I will like to say that if you know your own fate, how much more knowledge can you get?
Right. Yeah. There you go.
Pretty huge. That's one of my kitties, if you heard her scream. So he makes a second deal. This is Odin, going back to Odin now. He makes a second deal. So you would think that, man, you'd have enough. No, not Odin. He's like, he wants more. So he has a second pursuit of knowledge. This one's bigger though. He wants to actually get to unlock the Norse runes, like to understand runes, right?
Okay, all right.
Nobody can really do that. So he goes out and he searches and searches and he figures out a way to do it. The only way to do it is to sacrifice yourself. Well, man, I've already sacrificed an eye. This is bigger. So what's bigger than an eye? Yourself. To himself. Very interesting, right?
Right.
So he travels down, goes to the tree, the world tree.
Oh, the world tree, huh?
The world tree, and hangs himself. It's the tree of life, so of course it's got some duality, some dual meanings here. So for 9 days and 9 nights, he literally hangs, basically dead, in order to gain the knowledge of the other world and of the other world / realms, and understand the runes.
Whoa,
Now,
wow.
you can stop there. There's one little part that some depictions have him actually getting also stabbed with a spear.
Ooh. Oh,
like in his side. And from between the two, the stabbing and the hanging, he's as close to death as you can get. And therefore, once he's on that slight precipice, that's when the knowledge is revealed to him, and bam, he comes back to, snaps out of it and comes back to life, so to speak.
Wow.
I know that there's a parallel to Matt with that. Do you want to take it, Derek?
There are 2 layers to this.
Yeah.
So first, I'm going to set this up. When Matt and Rand enter the city of Ruidin, they find this great tree, a Korra tree, the Avendasora tree. This is a tree that when you sit under it, you literally feel at peace. And Matt remarks, so this is like, spoiler, by the way, but this is like our world tree, okay? And Matt remarks that there's another character that they know about in their mythology that sat under a tree like that for many years to gain knowledge from the tree. and he was at the mercy of the animals to feed them. And I might be messing this part up, but I think the animals were only allowed to bring him liquids or something like that. So Matt is recalling this story that he knows about a guy that's in their mythology in the book, about someone that sat under this tree for many years to gain knowledge. So that's the tidbit. What's really interesting, and I'll go right for the kill here. Matrim Cauthon, when he goes into Odin, he finds a doorway. He thinks it's going to go back to those snaky folk that I talked about that would give him some more knowledge, so to speak. They're foxes. But guess what? Odin is crazy as a fox, isn't
he? A little bit.
So Matt goes in there, and he knows they're cheaters. What he gets out of this meeting is his spear, kind of like the All-Father's spear, right? He already has a wide-brimmed hat. But the other thing he gets is his memories. And these are memories from battles. So it's like all these men that have fought in these wars and lived and died. And somehow he has these memories. So that's knowledge that he has, like real, actual, practical knowledge when we're talking about a book that leads up to the last battle that's ever going to happen, right? So you need to know how battle works. So he receives the gift of knowledge of battle. And his other gift is this fox head medallion that we talked about earlier that shields him from people channeling directly on him. So what's interesting here, Theo, is he didn't set the price. And we talked about what was asked is given, the price is paid. So the foxy folk kind of laughed and they set their own price. So if you're some diabolical kind of demon entity in mythology, and the person you're negotiating with, Theo, doesn't set a price, what price are you going to set?
I have like zero price if I was going to set it.
Oh, no. But I mean, if you're the demon.
Oh, if I'm the demon, your price is the max.
Exactly.
What's the max?
So what happens? Death.
Yeah.
So Matrim Cauthon didn't know this.
Nope.
Because he was foolishly, he negotiated his life away.
Yeah.
So he was hanged on the Advendisora Cora tree by the neck. And because of this, he gains knowledge, the knowledge of battles. And in the book, at a later point, someone asks him, where'd you get that scar on your neck? And he goes, well, before I got the scar, I didn't know enough. After I have the scar, now I know too much. So you could say I was hanged for the knowledge. So if that doesn't tie it together nice and neat and leave it in the corner to be delivered, I don't know what does.
Right?
So how does that work for you?
I mean, I think that's perfect. And that was pretty dang close. I just have a couple points left of Odin. I don't necessarily know if they even kind of remotely go to Matt anyway, but I'm going to say them anyway.
Go for it, man. Go for it.
So, Odin isn't necessarily the actual father of the gods. It's not like he birthed a couple, so to speak.
Okay.
However, remember how I said they're probably ancient literatures.
Yep.
We find out about them later, way after the fact. We're talking about like 1000 AD kind of thing. It's not like we found them in ancient texts.
Right. But ancient compared to today.
Correct. Yes. But what came out in between? Christianity. Right.
Good point. Yep.
And as Christianity wanted to explain paganism, a lot of times they incorporated their own belief systems within the mythos of the original culture. So Allfather Odin, he was never, as far as I know, he never was really considered Allfather, so to speak. From ancient times, that was more of a Christian thing because he was the main god. He was one of the most powerful, therefore he was the Allfather because Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
So what I think you're saying is when Christianity experienced Norse mythology,
They had to
and
incorporate
they said to them, "Who's your top dog?"
right.
They pointed to the planet Mercury. That's basic, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm
Or
kind
they
of
would say
jumping
Odin or
around.
Wooden, depending on
Odin,
whatever.
Woden,
Yep.
Wotan. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And they were probably miffed like that because they're like, "Don't you mean Jupiter?"
Or in
And they're
their
like,
case,
"No."
right. Or I mean, that'd be like the Romans, but yeah, in terms of like Christian faith, they would be like, well, God has to be
Yeah.
God, therefore
Yep.
he's the father of everything.
Yep.
Hence, Odin the All Father. Kind of a theory, kind of what I've extrapolated from what I've read. So I think that one's kind of interesting.
Wait, well, Theo, hold on
Oh,
a
you
second.
got something?
So
Did I
Matt
lay
is
something up?
just carousing gambling guy, right?
Yep.
A drinker and stuff. So you're saying Matt is the All Father? Why would that be the case? Why wouldn't Rand be the OG? Is there some kind of information we're forgetting about that would make it look like maybe Rand could have been the OG?
I mean, Rand could be the OG.
I mean, something about tier worship.
I'm not putting down what you're putting down. Just say
Okay,
it. Just say it.
I'm going to remind everybody of what you said in another episode, that if, and maybe this is why I'm confusing you, if tier is Tiwaz, that's a big if though, right? So
Right.
I probably should have put it that way. If tier is Tiwaz, then originally it looks like the Norse people worship Tyr as their main dude. Yeah.
Right.
So then it's like, okay, then it's fine for Rand to be the main dude.
You tricked me on my own words.
No, I know. I said it, but dude, I had this audience. I had my half a glass of wine today. So
It's all good, bro.
Don't
It's all
blame
good.
anything. Don't blame everything on our host.
No.
The co-host today.
My dumbness too. It's okay.
So on to go. It's
So
back to
crazy,
you.
right?
Yep.
So Matt has an army. Yes?
Oh yeah.
Do
Yes,
they
most
follow him?
definitely. Say what now?
Do they follow him?
Do they follow him? Yeah.
To the T, right?
I mean,
To the ends of
they
the earth.
literally volunteer just to follow him.
So Odin had a little special army as well.
Oh yeah.
Might have heard of them before. They're called the Valkyries.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of his specialized army. Flip side, when I said he's sort of, kind of, not sort of the god of the dead, as in he's not like Hades or Hell, in like the Norse mythology. He's not like the god of the dead. But what he would do is like go through the battlefields, select folk. So you have war. War has battles. Battles have people that either survive or don't, obviously. From that, he recruits to his army, but because of the cycle of war, people always die.
Right.
Hence why he's also associated with the dead.
Okay. So you're saying because of this weird kind of deal he made, he gets basically the best warriors recruited into his personal army.
Right.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Of course,
I like that very much.
but they're not immortal. And if you didn't know this, none of the Norse gods are actually immortals. They all die. That's not a spoiler alert. They all do technically die in Ragnarok.
That's very interesting because in Wheel of Time, even though these characters, so we talked about, I'm going to throw this in, the Old Norse word Tavir basically means celestial or god. And Matt is known as a Tavir Ran. So he's a god, basically, in the Wheel of Time.
As
Can
is
you
Rand,
believe-
as his parent.
Most definitely, right. And so I wanted to throw this in. Now, wait a minute, Theo. Didn't you say that Odin was the god of war?
Yeah.
But didn't we also have another video saying that
Yeah, Tyr and Thor are the god of war.
Tyr
too.
was
Yeah.
the god of war?
Yeah.
And didn't we also say Thor was the god of war?
Right.
Well, listen to this. In Wheel of Time, Matt, who's Odin, the god of war, has his own army called the Band of the Red Hand. Perrin, who is Perun, who is Thor, Jupiter, also has his own army that he leads in the Wheel of Time.
Right.
And it's the army of the Two Rivers, or the army of Manetheren, or the Red Wolf army, or the army of the Red Eagle, whatever you want to call it. And then you go over to Rand. Well, Rand has his own army also.
Right.
And he has Dragon Sworn, which they're technically his. They do their own thing, but technically, if you told them to do something, they would. And then he has his army of the Dragon, which these are people that like tried to learn how to channel, but they couldn't. So, and they learned like sword and crossbow or something. And then you have the actual Ashaman from the Black Tower themselves, which are like minor channelers. So I would even think about these people, Theo, the Ashaman, if you think about it, they'd be minor deities themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I would think.
Yeah. And this will have to be for another time, but the leader of the Ashaman, going off a little tangent here, his name is Matrim Time. And a little research has revealed, Theo, and I know this, you'll like to look into this deeper later.
What we got?
The Hebrew word Mazrim means Egypt. So wouldn't you imagine you have a guy named Mazrim Time, whose name in Hebrew means Egypt, and what is he making? A black tower? What's in Egypt? The pyramids?
Mm-hmm.
Who's one of the terrible gods in Egypt? Osiris? Maybe Mesrim Time is Osiris. So just throwing that out there. But I'm going to throw it back to you. I know I kind of meandered a little bit.
You're giving people little breadcrumbs of future episodes, and hopefully people dig that.
Oh, for sure.
So basically, I introduced the death of the Norse gods, Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though he has the immense knowledge, awesomely powerful,
mm-hmm.
all-seeing at this point, he knows all, pretty much all. He still dies.
Well,
he gets eaten.
Check this out, and I forgot this point, so I'll try to wrap this up briefly. Matrim Cauthon, he has the best of the best of the people that are dead. I forgot almost, but he blows the Horn of Valir, which brings the heroes of old back to life.
Yep.
Yeah, but just the heroes.
Yeah.
So also in Wheel of Time,
badasses.
right? But also in Wheel of Time, I'm going to remind you, everybody that dies goes to the dream world, and eventually they're reborn again. So specific heroes are more specifically reborn to be like they were in past lives. So that's kind of like that kind of dying cycle kind of thing. But I'll throw it back to you. I just wanted to hit that.
No, that's a good point. Go on. So even for his immense knowledge set, he knows that Ragnarok's coming. There is no preventing it.
Right.
Fenrir, the mega wolf, breaks free. That actually is what sets off Ragnarok. And Odin gets swallowed whole, and game over. And it's an endless. Well, it's not an endless cycle. Literally, all the bad guys and the good guys basically kill each other off, and it's the end of Asgard.
Whoa. Well, that's kind of like Tarman Gaden in Wheel of Time, right? The last battle where all the heroes and villains are supposed to meet up and fight each other until everyone's dead.
Kind of interesting how that goes along the lines of other mythology, right?
It is, because spoiler alert, it's not really the last battle. The world doesn't end. So, yeah.
Yes.
So it may not be the beginning, but it could be a beginning in this great Wheel of Time.
Great Wheel of Time, Series 2 by not Robert Jordan, obviously, but I wonder if they made notes for like a second series.
There was this rumor, actually. I forgot what it was supposed to be called, but there's a rumor that Robert Jordan was going to make a series in the future from the point of view of Wheel of Time.
Interesting. So like the next cycle, like the next stage.
Yeah. And apparently it was going to be like people couldn't channel anymore.
Oh, because they forgot how to do it?
well, not even that they forgot, but they were just not born with the ability anymore.
Oh shoot, that'd be
So,
cool.
right. So there's like some ancient people that were still around that could do it because channeling makes you live a long time. But mostly people are doing it this new way. And the old way of channeling is your earth, fire, wind, water, spirit. But the new way seems to be you can just do whatever you want. It just takes energy away. So to me, what's
Hmm.
interesting about that is, doesn't that sound a lot like that Aragon series?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, it really does.
And then you can
So
almost also say Star Wars too.
yeah, a lot, actually a lot like Star Wars because people, it was, he wanted to make it more like it's in Wheel of Time. What was really interesting about it is it's like really concrete. He lays down how the powers work, like not exactly to like a science like ax y equals mx plus b or something like that,
Right.
but he like lays it out. There are these five powers, and you combine them in different ways and you weave them into these patterns, and then different things happen. Well, he did that on purpose because any other fantasy that you read, it's just like he made a fireball. Well, okay, was that difficult compared to turning the bird into stone? Were they about the same? Could he just keep doing this? Is
Mm-hmm.
it making him tired? So he wanted like all the rules to be there to make sense. And in the sequel, he was going to go back to more like the traditional fantasy where things just kind of happen and you don't really know who can do what. And it would be more like people, this person can make a fireball. Well, this person can make a ham sandwich, but like it doesn't really, you never know.
Never know.
So,
Interesting. I didn't know that.
but but that's
I just
just,
said that out of randomness, but
yeah, no,
that
that
actually
is
sounds
interesting
sweet.
that you brought that up, and I could be remembering that a little bit wrong, but I think that's about right, and I forget what it was called. And the hint to it, the theory is that there was a hint to it at the very end of the last book when our hero, who you think is vanquished, may end up still lingering around. And he's able to do some weird stuff that has nothing to do with the one power. He was able to light his tobacco pipe. So I know that sounds small, but doesn't that
Hmm.
sound more like a Gandalf? Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, he can use his magic to light his pipe. Wow, that's pretty amazing. But can Gandalf open a portal in thin air to take everyone away? I don't know. It's more nebulous. You
I
see what I
mean,
mean?
if he could, he probably would have instead of "You shall not pass," just warp him out of here.
Right, but it's kind of like it makes you think. It's like, well, maybe there's a price to pay
That is
with that
true.
kind of right with that kind of magic. So
We did get
yeah,
off on
so,
a tangent there. That was totally accidental, viewers. But
but
hopefully that
actually
was pretty
not
cool.
entirely
It was accidental on my part, but then we went
because
off on
Odin
it.
and Matt, there you see Odin uses these crazy runes to get his magic to work.
True.
Now there's nothing like that in Wheel of Time, but what's really funny is, and I'll throw it back to you, Matt is quoted as writing in these weird angular characters. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, that sounds a lot like
Runes.
what Norse runes actually look like. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in a way, you could say a weave could kind of be just a rune.
Like the effects of one.
Yeah.
That makes me think of like Frigga's actual weave where
Right.
she can affect. Yeah. Yeah.
They're kind of like combining the two to do whatever they. It'll be interesting to see how they depict that going to the show since we have what 5 days. It's gonna do this little
Well,
hype stuff. I wonder how they're gonna. But are they gonna do like some handy things? Are they gonna show the weaves? Are they gonna be invisible? Are things just gonna go down on wires?
so thinking about how successful Harry Potter was,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about how complex the magic system is in Wheel of Time,
Mm-hmm.
I bet it will be a compromise, much like you're saying. I bet we're going to see kind of hand gestures to indicate the magic working. Now, some people might be upset by that, but I will point out that in Wheel of Time, how you learn to do the weave is how you do the weave. So, what does that mean? You definitely could have a situation where with Maureen, the only way she can do her eavesdrop weave is by channeling through her gem, her stone that she has on her
Or will
forehead.
be super dope as if she just does this.
There you go. There you go. But well, and then the only way she was able to make that incredible fire to torch through the stone to make a doorway through the waygate was to focus through her staff. And she even tells Egwene,
Yep.
the staff isn't powerful, it's just a focus. So if you learn that you need a focus, then that's how you have to do it. So what am I getting at? If you learn that you have to make a hand gesture like you were getting at with your,
Right.
then that's how you have to do it.
By the way, that was a Hulk Hogan throwback.
Oh, nice. Let's hear it, brothers. Hear it for the Hulkster.
I don't know. I'm still looking for. Hey, not going. We're done with Odin, viewers. We're good. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed the show, our show. I hope you guys are getting hype for the show this weekend.
Oh,
I
for
know
sure.
that I am. I'm looking forward to seeing how the episodes go.
Oh, wait,
And,
I got one for you though.
oh, do you?
Question.
Yeah.
How many realms are there in the Norse mythology?
9.
Oh, okay. So it's not a coincidence that Matt Cauthon marries the daughter of the Nine Moons?
Or that Odin hung for 9 days.
There you go. There you go.
One for
Or that
each,
Odin, I believe Odin marries a foreigner. So there you go.
Bam! Last second info drop right at the
There you
end.
go.
I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We definitely enjoyed making it, studying it.
For sure.
Again, if you guys have knowledge that we don't, or you have a different aspect or a different interpretation, love to hear it. Hit us up on our channel. We're the Heels of Time.
And we'll appreciate it. We're not going to give you our eyeball for it.
No,
but we will
yeah, sorry.
appreciate it.
Or yeah, I'm definitely not gonna do anything crazy. Sorry, but we'll definitely comment back or hit you up in the show. Maybe have you as a guest speaker or something.
Oh, for sure.
Totally cool with that. But again, we're the Heels of Time. Don't forget Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
The 19th it comes out. Hopefully you guys are as pumped as we are. Definitely looking forward to it. And until